welcome to the Science Faction Podcast, where science meets fact meets fiction.
This is Science Faction for the week of January 28th, 2025. I'm one of your hosts, Stephen Dominguez, and with me tonight, two guys who are definitely not going to fix it in post.
Yo, I'm Benjamin Daniel Lawless. I don't edit the show, so good luck.
Devon Kraft.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Going all right.
Well, yeah, we're trying. Well, man, it's agony and ecstasy over here.
Uh-oh.
There, Stephen. We got pet rats.
Right.
And Flint's been wanting pet rats for like a year, and he really worked super hard for it. So we got these two pet rats. They're so cute. Soba and Udon.
Rat facts. I remember you said that.
Yes.
Yeah, he had to learn rat facts.
He had to look up rat facts. He had to do all this research in order to figure out like what it really was like to have rats. And so, sure enough, a week and a half ago, we got two rats, Soba and Udon. And long story short, Udon didn't make it.
Oh.
So through the first weekend, and it was so sad, y'all. But we got another rat.
Oh.
And her name's Noodles, and now we have Soba and Noodles. I'm surrounded by rat cages because they need to be quarantined from each other. So I have two large rat cages now.
I bet that smells pretty good.
You know what's kind of nice is that my 11-year-old little chaos gremlin has been doing a pretty good job of taking care of the rats. So, doing all right. But boy, losing a pet and having to be like the responsible parent, that's a tough thing, y'all.
Yeah.
And Stephen, I know you've dealt with that. You've dealt
yes.
with younger kids and older pets going with that.
I mean, yeah, when you've got a child that has always known the pet to be there, I think that's pretty rough. Yeah.
This is a little different because, it was that idea of like the initial thought that I knew he had, which was, did I do something wrong? Because here I am, here we are, we're having a great half a week, and then poor little Udon is not with us anymore, So that's
look,
it's been wild.
It's a bummer.
Wild times.
It's a real bummer. But so my wife's sister had rats. Marsha had rats. And they don't last very long. When they have
they're about a 2 to 3. Yeah, they're about 2 to 3 year commitment.
Yeah.
And so like there's like that video game, that Quantic Dream video game called Heavy Rain, where like right at the beginning of the game, you like your son in the game finds their dead bird in the bird cage, and as the father in the game, you're actually like, great little video game, far cry from Super Mario Brothers. You have to kind of usher the little child through like death and through like the acceptance of this. And when Flint started saying, "Oh, I want rats," immediately that's where my mind went, was like that scene in Heavy Rain. I know I'm going to have that conversation with him, and it's going to come sooner rather than later, but I did not expect it this soon.
Well, speaking of video game deaths,
yeah, man,
I've got a great segue and R.I.P. Udon. I hope you're enjoying wherever you've gone to. We got Sonic the Hedgehog on the Switch, and there's reasons for that, and I'll get to those.
Which Sonic the Hedgehog?
It was probably the wrong choice. It's the some kind of some kind of remake of the original.
Okay.
It was like $8.
Is this Sonic Mania?
No,
Sonic
the Hedgehog. Sonic the Hedgehog. It's like from the Sega, like the original Sonic the Hedgehog, right?
Okay. Okay.
So my oldest was all excited. I was like, hey, she's like, I love Sonic now. And I'm like, it's only been 2 movies. And she's like, I know. We'll get there, Devin, relax. And so I'm showing her, I was like, hey, this is what the movie was based on. This was the original Sonic the Hedgehog. I played this when I was a kid. Check this out. Yeah, she got 2 acts in and was like, this is hard. He dies a lot. And I was like, I know, right? Look, there goes rings again. Remember in the movie when you laughed and you went, "Oh, my rings"? That's like every 5 seconds in the game. And so, anyways, we had some fun with it, and as I'm alluding to, this past weekend we watched both Sonic 1 and 2. And,
okay.
Wow, those movies are movies.
I mean, I'll tell you, you probably will do the best with like the like pulling out your Steam Deck, loading up a Dreamcast emulator, and playing like one of the Sonic games on Dreamcast.
That sounds like a lot of effort, because I just pressed a couple buttons on the Switch and then downloaded the thing. That was it. So
yeah, but I mean, just imagine.
Lazy. I see. Here's the thing. When I wanted to like surprise her.
Yeah.
We just finished dinner. I was like, hey, go get the Switch. I want to show you something. So she goes and grabs the Switch. First thing I noticed is that the screen is just caked in spit and nonsense because the girl's been playing with it.
Oh.
There is, we gotta. You have to manage your expectations when you have 2 and one's a lot younger than the other. I do not want to hand them my Steam Deck at all, ever.
Plug it into a TV, hand them a controller.
You're a TV.
Most of the Switch controllers work with it too.
You're a controller. Yeah, I should probably do something like that.
I am a controller.
So we watched Sonic 1 and 2. The girls enjoyed it. I enjoyed them mostly. The second one, they were doing some gymnastics to make plot lines that were kind of nonsense in the first movie continue for some reason. But they did. Oh boy, did they. And
they
then
sure did.
And then we watched the preview for the third one, which I was not prepared to pay money for, like as a rental or whatever. They're like, oh, there's another one out. I was like, no, there isn't. But we watched the preview, and I was like, to myself, that's Keanu Reeves' voice that I hear now.
Yep.
What happened? That's amazing. Now I'm excited to watch Sonic 3 because I love Keanu Reeves.
Which character does Keanu play?
He's Shadow the Hedgehog.
Oh, okay.
He's John Wick, but in a hedgehog form. It looks like according to that trailer, that's what he is. So
basically, yeah,
that's fine. Anyways, that's what's been going on in my life besides kid being sick. But if you're a patron, you know all about that. Patreon.com/Science Faction Podcast. The other bit that I want to talk about, just in the slightest, tiniest bit, is I started using Duolingo.
To
learn
to
Latin.
do what?
To learn Latin. I want to learn some Latin. I don't know why I chose
Latin?
it though. Yeah, it's weird.
Huh.
Because it's a root language. A lot of other languages are based around it. That like, if I wanted to branch off from that to like and to a lot of other European languages, it would be not easy, but at least some things would be familiar. Like I'm already recognizing some stuff from when I learned Spanish. There's like little similarities and stuff of how the sentences are constructed and things like that. So
why not continue to learn Spanish?
That's my response to that.
That's why. I mean, here I am, 327 days into my streak on Duolingo. I've gone through a bit of Japanese. I'm now fully immersed in doing Spanish. You can do math and music learning
What?
in Duolingo. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Huh.
This episode brought to you by Duolingo.
By an angry owl who judges you when you skip a day.
Oh, man. Constant judging. I haven't skipped a day in several months because I'm done with being judged.
Yeah, so I did like one day, and then I forgot the next day, and so the third day I was like, oh, that's right, I started Duolingo. That bird was not happy with me. He was not taking it. What's up? Like, I am so happy and excited about that Duolingo was free. I am so not happy and not excited about the length of ads in that app.
Gotcha.
And so I am definitely looking into perhaps purchasing some non-ad time, because that is annoying.
Yo, Steven, hit me up later.
Do you have the family thing?
Yeah.
Allegedly?
Yeah, we have a family thing.
Okay.
Well, we do have a family thing.
Okay.
Yeah. The whole family is learning Japanese and whatever. Well, they're still learning Japanese.
What
yeah, but
why'd you stop?
know why did I stop learning Japanese?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, for me it was learning the writing systems. They take a lot of time doing the writing systems, and the writing systems are hard. They're not as fun as speaking Japanese.
Okay.
And so between hiragana, katakana, like all of that is just like, this is hard. It's hard to learn another language. And I'm not really sure that I'll go to Japan before I'll go to Spain or to Mexico or to potentially Barcelona. Devin, tell me about Barcelona.
It's a city in Spain. So, Jen's sister is
No. Are you serious?
not moving to Barcelona.
Is that where the wedding's gonna be?
No.
Oh, good. I was so worried for you, sir.
Oh no, I'm still going to Barcelona.
Steven's freaking out. Okay,
yeah, but for fun, right?
For what?
For fun?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's that?
Okay, so Jen's sister's getting married, and her and her fiance planned this trip to Barcelona taking place in April, like a month or two ago, and then they announced they're getting married. I'm not sure when they actually decided to get married. It feels like it's probably been a while, but they announced they just recently got engaged, and they're planning on getting married now in early April, making the Barcelona trip basically their honeymoon. But they kept asking Jen and I to go meet them there for part of it, because they're going to be there for like a week and a half or 2 weeks or something. And they're like, well, just come for a little while. And at first, you hear that someone asks you to go on a trip to Europe. You're like, oh yeah, no, that's not going to happen. No,
yeah,
I didn't even.
Way.
And then by the third time they asked was this weekend when we were all at a dinner party, and Jen was like, well, let's just see how much the tickets are. And so I looked up the flights, and round trip flights for 2 adults. We actually found a pretty good deal. And we were like, well, I mean, when else are we going to just get the opportunity to go on a trip like this? And so we decided to go. So we're going to go for we're going to fly out on a Friday and come back on a Wednesday. So, I mean, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And that's a good, the Saturday we'll be landing on Saturday because it's it's a very long flight. So, but still, that's enough time, I think, to make it worth it. But I'm not much. I mean, as Jen will tell you, I do not travel as much as she would like, or we don't travel as much as she would like. So that was another reason I was like, yeah, why not? We'll do it.
Well, Barcelona, I know almost nothing about, but since it's a city name that I recognize, I assume some people there speak of the English.
Yeah, that's what they said. They're like, yeah, most people there speak English.
Okay.
Jen speaks some Spanish.
What?
Some, not fluently, but some.
Okay. I didn't peg her for a Spanish speaker, but like you say, some. So what do I know?
And then Megan.
Latin. Steven, Latin, not.
Puella dormit in urbe. Take that, man. Tell me what I said. You don't know.
Jen's sister's fiance, he speaks a few languages, one of them being Spanish, and so he's probably going to be able to communicate pretty effectively.
But do you trust him? Like, how do you know that this wasn't, like, they're asking you guys so hard. Like, what if this is some kind of like, what if this is like a cult thing? What if you get there and they're like, how many kidneys you got? That's too many.
Yeah.
That's too many kidneys. Let's rectify that. And then before you know it, you're on your plane home a few ounces lighter. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like it's like at first it was kind of like, I don't know, nerve-wracking in a way. Like, wow, are we gonna spend the money? Are we gonna today I asked Jen's mom, like, oh, would you be able to watch the kids for that time? Like, that's a long time to ask one person to watch two young kids.
Yeah.
But she said she'd do it. So, and she's watched the kids for a few days at a time before.
Wait, so hold on. My first question in my brain when you said that they were inviting you guys to go with them, I thought, she's got 3, you guys have 2. That's 5 kids that are going to be parentless.
Having fun.
So who's watching all these kids?
Going across the world?
Megan's kids for part of that time, at least for part of that time, are supposed to be with their dad.
Oh, that's right. He exists still. I forgot about that.
Yeah, and so that was her plan.
Okay. He's going to make sure that doesn't happen. I hope he doesn't listen to this podcast.
No, that's what we're worried about. We're pretty sure he's going to try to mess the whole thing up.
Well, Devin, if you get cold feet on going to Barcelona, let me know. I will send a clip of this to him, to the him that will not be named, and he will make sure to shut it down.
Yeah. Well, no, I won't get. I want to go. I mean, we bought the tickets. I don't want to.
You don't want to back out now. Fair enough.
Even though you can probably cancel the tickets, you're not going to get like a full refund.
Yeah, I'm just making jokes, man. It's just, trying to keep it lighthearted.
Oh, no, I know. I'm just, the sad part is he's going to do something to screw it up, and we're going to, for us, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't directly affect us, but she would have to find someone to watch her kids for that time. To make their mom watch our 2 kids and her 3 kids, so 5 kids, and one grandmother for at least 5 days. Like that's
brutal, man.
So that's like what we're worried about, and we don't want to put her through that. And we know that he's going to try to. He doesn't know that she's going. I don't know how much. Who knows what? If her kids know, and how much they've told him, and blah blah blah. I don't know, but there is a potential for complications like that.
Speaking of complications, hey Ben, you want to talk future or now?
Oh my God. Now. Sure. Let's do this.
I see a couple of words there. That needs some explaining.
My friends, a new Star Trek movie just came out. Star Trek Section 31. Now let me tell you something, everybody. If you're a Star Trek completionist like I am, and you haven't seen this film, what are you waiting for? What are you afraid of? Are you afraid of perhaps it's going to be terrible? Well, it's okay. A film can be terrible. It's totally fine. Have you guys seen this film?
No.
I feel like I've seen it. I watched the Red Letter Media review that just came out today. I watched the Ups and Downs from Trek Culture.
Oh, I should watch those.
The Ups and Downs, which was, I think, 1 hour and 40 minutes, which is probably the length of the movie itself.
Yeah. Now, I'll tell you, I've seen it twice now.
Why?
I watched it.
What?
Well, I watched it once. I did not enjoy it on the first watch.
All right.
I'll say that pretty solidly. Was just like, what was that? But then as I reflected on it, I thought about the really cool alien races that they introduced in this film. I thought about the incredible acting that the crew does in it, when they're given not a great script to work with. And I thought, I saw a review on a Star Trek subreddit that was just like, hey, this is kind of what 10-year-old me would have wanted a Star Trek movie to be like. I thought, I wonder what an 11-year-old would think about this.
That's funny. That's almost
okay.
exactly what Red Letter Media said.
Yeah, right
They
on.
were like,
Okay.
"Oh, this is the kind of Star Trek movie I would have written when I was 11." And then when I was 12, I would have been like, "Oh man, 11-year-old me was a bad writer."
Yeah, it's not. I'll say this, for all the things that don't work for me in this film, most of them come down to, well, okay, you watch a silly action movie and you expect you're going to kind of get swept away in like what's going on in the movie, and your emotions are stuck in it, and you're like your heart is racing and you're in it. But then you maybe think about it a couple days later and you go, why did the X-Men do that? That doesn't make any sense. Well, this film, it was kind of almost immediate. Just in the film, there were just plot holes that I was like, wait, why is this happening? What is going on? A lot of times upon second watching, which I enjoyed it a lot more on second watching, but I realized that there were a lot of things that were explained by a single line that were delivered as if they were a joke, but they're not.
Did a character look into the camera and go, "Nah, just kidding," and then the movie ends? Is that what fixed all the plot holes? Oh no.
Kind of.
From what I've heard and from what I've seen clips of, it's basically they tried to do like Guardians of the Galaxy, Suicide Squad type humor.
Yes. Yeah. It's a Guardians of the Galaxy, Suicide Squad meets Hunger Games meets Mandalorian, all in the Star Trek kind of in the Star Trek universe, in kind of like a corner of it that like has never been explored before. So they're like, we're trying something new, you know.
The guy who primarily does the stuff on Trek Culture, which is a good channel on YouTube. People who are Trek fans should check it out. They generally like new Trek. They're very open-minded to all the stuff that Trek puts out, and they like Discovery and everything. He had a hard time with this one. He was trying to be so nice about it, but he kept like, you could tell he was like, this is just terrible.
Well, okay, so like this was originally going to be a TV show, and then it became a movie because Michelle Yeoh is a superstar, you know, and the thing is that if it were a pilot, it wouldn't be the worst Star Trek pilot I've ever seen. It's no Encounter at Farpoint. It is so much better than Encounter at Farpoint, the Next Generation pilot.
So I haven't seen the movies, so I can't say definitively. But I feel like if I had seen this movie, I would still strongly disagree.
Okay, that's fine.
I don't think I get people say Encounter at Farpoint is bad. And maybe it's because I was a kid when I saw it, but I think it does some good stuff, especially it does some good Star Trek stuff.
As does this film. This film does do some good Star Trek stuff, and big shout out to the character Fuzz, who's a nanokin, who's a microbial life form that is basically walking around in a robot Vulcan suit. Which is pretty freaking cool.
I think I just blacked out. Funny. I think when you said that, I blacked out. Yeah. That was what?
Now, you get to the end of this film, and honestly, I want to see more with these characters. I would love to see them continue. I go like, well, that was interesting. Bad story, but what if they had more adventures? I'd watch that. That would be really cool.
Man, but just think if you had if you could make a Section 31 movie in a time with writers who would be like, okay, let's take this concept seriously, because you have to make a good, especially when you're talking about Section 31, whenever it's been used in Star Trek before, it has never been as a joke. It's been like deadly serious.
Yeah, for sure. 100%.
And it's such a cool concept and lends itself to so much moral gray area if explored like intelligently, which is what, as we always say, that's kind of the basis of Star Trek, is to really not just be sci-fi or cool action and gizmos. It's to, wrestle with actual ethical questions and things. And this is the perfect opportunity for that, where you have like I mean, the setup should be obvious. You have a crew, a standard Starfleet crew that finds out some issue and it comes across something where if they follow the Prime Directive, it'll lead to horrible consequences, and Section 31 has to step in. Not overtly, of course, because it's supposed to be like this underground and thing. But
hold on. Let's pretend that there's somebody on this podcast that doesn't know what Section 31 is. Can you explain it for that hypothetical person? Like,
they
are very quickly.
I mean, you could say they're like the CIA
you didn't study.
or the Federation, but it's even more cloak and dagger than that. Like in Star Trek, it's like the Romulans have.
Let's pretend someone on this podcast doesn't know what the CIA is.
Wink, wink.
Sorry, it's a joke. Continue.
No, that's right. So like the Romulans have the Tal Shiar, which is like their secret government organization that does like all the spying and things, and the Cardassians have the Obsidian Order, and so Starfleet has Section 31. And I mean, I don't know if they have explicitly said in the show or in a book like Section 31 of probably the Federation Charter, I'm assuming.
Yeah, they mentioned that in Enterprise.
Okay, and I don't know if they talk about like the language and how that exactly leads to there being an organization, but it's pretty much it allows for something like this to exist in the background to kind of do the dirty work. But that's such a ripe area for moral dilemmas. I mean,
and
it's
that's not what
Star Trek.
And that's not what this film is about.
and from what I've seen from the previews and what I've heard people talk about, it does not look anything like what that could be. And if you want to know what that could be, just watch Deep Space Nine, and where the bulk of Section 31 takes place when you see how it works. I mean, it's
theoretically, a Section 31 should have been a classic Next Generation episode, but they don't have Picard, and so they can't solve the quandary. So instead, Section 31 steps in and says, "Look, you can't deal with this, but we can, and so we're taking over." And then they deal with whatever the problem is.
But not even that overtly. They have to do it without you knowing, because that was the whole thing in Deep Space Nine. They didn't just come out and be like, "All right, we're here now. We're taking this over. This is our jurisdiction." The whole thing was they were trying to influence one character into helping them without anybody else knowing.
Well, that's boring from their point of view. You can't have that show.
No, you could.
Sure.
Good writing can do that.
No.
Yeah, it can. And the thing is that one of the big challenges I had too was like, I kind of remember what happened at the end of in the middle of season 3 of Star Trek Discovery to Georgiou's character when we last see her, and they don't really answer it like the big questions of like, so I could get into it.
No.
If you want a really decent Emperor Georgiou story, I highly recommend the novel Star Trek Discovery Die Standing, which I just finished reading. It was so good, and it was weird finishing that and then like a day later watching the Section 31 movie. But the idea here is that in Die Standing, it takes place between seasons 1 and 2 of Star Trek Discovery. Section 31 recruits Philippa Georgiou as an agent because she has knowledge of events that happened in her timeline that are a mirror to events that happened in our timeline to our Philippa Georgiou. And there's something that they can't unlock without Philippa Georgiou. But guess what? Our Philippa Georgiou is dead. So what do they do? There's this powerful interstellar menace that actually is from the original series of Star Trek that Georgiou recognizes as a super weapon that she was about to wield in her timeline, in her universe. And instead, she basically goes to this region forbidden by travelers, and she finds a lot of stuff and goes on an incredible journey. So I highly recommend it. I know we're 30 minutes into this podcast. I'm done talking about Star Trek Discovery and Section 31, but like,
Okay.
you know, why not watch it? Devin, you've already watched over 2 hours worth of information about it. What could watching the original, like, how bad could it be?
Which logical fallacy is this?
It's all of them. Every one of them.
It's the oh man, it's like the good money after bad. It's
sunk cost.
It's one of the gambler fallacies.
I thought it was sunk cost.
Like,
no?
What?
Isn't it sunk cost?
Sunk cost.
Sunk cost. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, you spent so much time, you might as well keep going.
Yeah.
No.
Right? I mean, I've only watched it twice, y'all.
Well, you watched it once for you and once for Devin, so now the universe is in order.
This weekend, as we're hanging out, we're going to watch it. It's going to be great.
Oh.
We'll record next episode.
It's
going to be
that could be on in the background while we're like playing a game or something. That I could dig.
We'll do a commentary track for Section 31.
I don't think so.
Let's go.
I think we'll just end up talking about other stuff that's more interesting.
You think?
It could be a great time, or it could be not. Okay, let's move right along. Devin, you got the one words on the notes here. Armadillo. Period. What is this about? Future or now? Armadillo. Okay.
All right. So Jen showed me something the other day that she thought I would find interesting, and I found it very interesting. It was a clip of a guy talking about strange things about Texas, and he ended up talking about armadillos at one point. And the type of armadillo we have here in Texas is I think it's the 9-plated. Where is it? I just had all this information up about it. But, sorry. Okay, here we go. Damn it, where is it? Okay.
Oh, Devin doesn't know how to internet.
Okay, so there are 21 species of armadillo, and one lives in North America, which is the one you see in Texas. I'm not going to try to say its Latin name. Maybe Steven could do that. But
how dare you? I will one day. I'm not there yet.
Armadillo in Spanish means little armored one. In Aztec, the name is turtle rabbit.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Turtle rabbit.
Here it is. It's the 9-banded armadillo. That's the common name for it.
Turtle.
Although they can have bands of 7 or up to 10, and that's the bands of protective plating they have. So there's a few different facts about them that are interesting, but the one that I found the most interesting, which is why Jen showed it to me, is that when this particular species of armadillo reproduce, they always have identical quintuplets.
What? Okay.
Always?
Always. Like that's so here. So, and then the other interesting thing is when I was trying to look up information about this to talk about on the podcast, it turns out there's an IFL science article that was published just 4 days ago about this. So this seems to be in the zeitgeist right now.
Armadillo facts in the zeitgeist.
The Dasypus novemcinctus.
Nope. That's wrong.
All right. So these animals have evolved specifically to almost always, so I guess not always, but almost always produce identical quadruplets. It's unclear how they do this or why they do this. It's called obligate polyembryony, which is something we humans can do, but they don't do it every time. Obviously, when the egg splits and we have identical twins, but this happens in these almost every single time, and it's always 4, and it's always identical. That's just I find it interesting because I'm trying to figure out and everybody else is trying to figure out who studies this, what's the evolutionary advantage to this? Like, you think genetic diversity is supposed to be the advantage that's more likely to lead to successful traits being either passed on or being evolved.
Well, if you have a kid that's really good at being a kid, Well, if you have 4 of them, then the chances of that DNA advancing is 4 times as much. And it seems like, and I do not have all the answers here, I'm guessing. It seems like if these things can easily have 4 kids at a time, then that's the thing that pushed it to like, hey, they might as well be identical. That way we've got 4 shots with the same genetics. And if it's a failure, then all of them will be failures. We're just going to get pregnant again. If they're successful, well, then we're super successful, and we've got 4 times the chance of passing these genes on. I don't know.
But I just feel like if that's such a good method, if it's so successful, how come that's not there's not more animals that do that? If having identical offspring is more advantageous, then you feel like that would have evolved in more species. But clearly having genetically diverse offspring is more advantageous because that's the predominant method for doing it.
Yeah.
And if you can have 4, just because, I mean, it's like if you can't have 4 babies at once, fine, but it doesn't mean that it's like, well, then they might as well be the same because then at least one of them will survive and we'll get those genetics across. But it's just, like you said, if you have a defect, then they all have it. It seems like you still would be, and it's not like someone's making a decision. It's not like there's some intelligence saying, well, this works better in this situation. Right. It's just whatever works better. I mean,
like
so there's got to be a reason, and so there must be some something, at least for this species, it's advantageous to where it passes on that trait and that trait survives.
Well, but I mean, yes, I agree with that. However, sometimes mutations just kind of happen, and since they don't hurt, they just stick around. This could have been one of those things where it's like, oh, turns out quadruplets don't really hurt the genetic thing, so we're not going to select against it, so it just kind of sticks around.
Well, I mean, something that just happens and it doesn't hurt. It's still everything in biology. There's a cost. There's an energy cost and a resource cost. Mm-hmm. And so producing 4 of the same thing when you don't have to seems like it would be easily selected against, unless there's an advantage to it, which there must be for it to stick around.
Yeah, I don't know.
I just think that neutral changes have to be probably pretty subtle to not be selected out.
Yeah.
Or they would have to be changes that occur after reproduction, but that doesn't apply here. Yeah. And I thought it was interesting, and I think I was hoping to do a little bit more research to see like what are some of the leading theories, but all the articles I could find just said like, oh, this happens and it's a mystery. But I'm like, I'm sure there are scientists somewhere who are studying this and have some theories. So more on this develops.
My hope is that those scientists are working on more important things. But hey, if someone's got a free weekend, you know, let's investigate them 9-banded armadillos some more.
Perhaps there's nothing more important than this. Perhaps this is the reason for all of it, for everything. We'll unlock the secrets of the universe.
Once we understand. Yeah.
Yo, Steven.
Yeah? What? Yes?
Tell us about aquifers.
Oh, man. Hey, you guys like water?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Water's the best because we need it or we die. This article comes from, and this is a now. This is definitely not a future. This is a right frickin' now. Or as of January 13th. This comes from Science Daily. The title is Atop the Oregon Cascades, Team Finds a Huge Buried Aquifer. This is kind of just one of those neat things until I read that it's at least 81 cubic kilometers of water.
Oh, wow.
Do you guys know, I know we're in America here, a kilometer or a kilometer as some people like to say.
A kilometer?
I don't know. It's pretty big. I can't tell you exactly how big, but that's a lot of water.
No one knows.
No one knows. Just the rest of the world. Scientists from the University of Oregon and their partners, I guess they're all gay. It's late at night. And their partners have mapped the amount of water stored beneath volcanic rocks at the crest of the Central Oregon Cascades and found an aquifer many times larger than previously estimated. at least 81 cubic kilometers. That's almost...
Or 19 cubic miles.
Well, I know what a mile is. How many feet
there
is
you
that?
Go.
That's almost 3 times the maximum capacity of Lake Mead, the currently overdrawn reservoir along the Colorado River that supplies water to California, Arizona, and Nevada, and greater than half the volume of Lake Tahoe. If you know any of those things, then you know that's a lot of water.
It's 2.8 times 10 to the 12th cubic feet.
Okay, let's do inches now. My point
is
that...
a lot of mead.
That's so much mead. My
4.94 times 10 to the 15th cubic inches.
See, now I understand. It also shapes our understanding of volcanic hazards in the area. Magma interacting with lots of water often leads to explosive eruptions that blast ash and gas into the air, rather than eruptions with slower moving lava flows. I skipped a paragraph there, but the point is that it is volcanic rock that all this water is trapped in. It's not just sitting there in a big pile, and it's not, in a well. It's trapped in rocks, in all these lava rocks, which is really interesting. So let's see. There are similar large volcanic aquifers north of the Columbia Gorge and near Mount Shasta, likely make the Cascade Range the largest aquifer of its kind in the world. Let's see. So they talked about the Cascades, and there's 2 different sides of them. Let's see. There we go. The Western Cascades are characterized by deep slopes and deep valleys carved out by rivers. The High Cascades, meanwhile, are flatter, dotted with lakes and volcanic topography such as lava flows. The Cascade Range has been built up by volcanic activity over millions of years, making the exposed rocks in the High Cascades much younger than those in the Western Cascades. As a result, the transition zone between the Western Cascades and the High Cascades around Santiam Pass is a natural laboratory for understanding how volcanoes have shaped Oregon's landscape. When I think Oregon, I typically don't think volcanoes, but I guess I should. It's part of that ring of fire that Johnny was singing about. Let's see. Previous estimates of water availability in the Cascades took the springs at face value. There's springs that go to Clear Lake and that feed a bunch of places in Oregon. Measuring river and stream. Previous estimates of water availability in the Cascades took the springs at face value, measuring river and stream discharge. Instead, the team went deeper, literally, but since those holes weren't originally drilled with the intent of mapping groundwater, they don't cover every area where one might like to collect such data. See, they weren't there to look for groundwater. They were there, I think they were looking for volcano stuff. They just kind of happened across all of this water with their data. Kind of interesting. Let's see, the new estimate the size of the aquifer is a lower bound, and the actual volume might be even bigger still. Let's see. The aquifer is largely replenished by snow and snowpack, and the High Cascades is expected to rapidly decrease in the upcoming decades. More participation is expected to fall as rain, which may impact the amount of recharge feeding the High Cascade aquifer. And while it's likely resilient to small year-to-year fluctuations, many years in a row of low rainfall or no snowpack would probably be a different story. So let's see. Grant. Who's Grant? Dr. Alan Grant? No, it's a different Grant. Where's his name? I gotta give this guy the props he deserves. Or she.
Co-author Gordon Grant, a geologist with the Forest Service.
Thank you so much for finding that. What'd you do?
Yep, Control F. Command F.
Yeah.
I did not hit Control F.
No, because you got a fruit. Quote by Grant: "This region has been handed a geological gift, but we really are only beginning to understand it. If we don't have any snow, or if we have a run of bad winters, or we don't get any rain, what's that going to mean? Those are the key questions we're now having to focus on." The whole purpose of that little quote there was to say, hey, let's tap into this water and drain it and drink it and use it. And they're saying, slow down. Things are getting worse before they're getting better. Maybe having this aquifer as an emergency backup is a good idea, and we leave it alone. Which, maybe that's good advice. So, yeah, I thought this was kind of cool. Oregon Cascades, bunch of water, kind of neat. Water is one of those things that, it's just we as Americans currently take it for granted. I think we have water, unless you're in Flint, Michigan, right? Because I think that's a problem still around. But we just have water. Like, we have a tap. If you want water, you just turn the thing, and now you have water. Moving on. There's a limited supply of this stuff, and usable supply, and we use it a lot for a lot of things. Food is a small portion of that. So, us as a species managing our water usage, it's not like critical right now. We've got some other things to be concerned about, but it also should not be forgotten. Because if drinkable water runs out, oops, all dead. Everything, there's no more. So yeah. All right. You guys.
Time for a break.
It is time for a break. And look, we're not an hour in. We're going to take ourselves a little break. When we come back, we are doing a book club. Fondly Fahrenheit by Alfred Bester. There's going to be some serious talk in this one, so put the kids to bed. Make yourself a nice hot cup of tea. What else is comforting, Ben?
I don't think that we should make it hot at all. We should keep the hot things away from the robots, from the servile robots, please.
Spoilers. All right, we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back.
Are you an aspiring author with a Word document, but you want it to be a book? Penciled In's got your solution, working with authors to bring their work to life through print on demand. I'm Benjamin Daniel Lawless, and I've designed over 70 books since 2005. I collaborate closely with authors to get their books printed and sold through Amazon. From cover to layout, bring your vision to life. Learn more at penciledin.com.
And we're back.
Heyo.
Hello.
Hi.
And a big thank you to our patrons, Renee and Josh, sciencefaction.com. Nope. Patreon.com/sciencefactionpodcast. Man, for our book club, we're gonna skip a week, and in 2 weeks we're gonna read Burning Chrome by William Gibson. We're going to jack
unless
into
something better comes along.
Yeah, for sure. But we're going to jack into the Toronto Construct Matrix and download all this onto our decks, plug the SimStim recorder on, and zone out, y'all.
I love all those things.
But that's not this week.
Well,
What's
hold
happening
on.
this week?
No. Let's just a second, because now we're going to talk about Burning Chrome, because it's a collection of 10 short stories. Are we reading all 10 or just one of them?
No, we're only reading the final story in the collection called Burning Chrome.
So we're reading Burning Chrome from Burning Chrome?
Yes, by the famed author Burning Chrome.
I can't wait to burn this chrome to the ground.
Have you guys, and this is off topic, but have you guys watched any of the season of Silo or watched any of the new Severance episodes?
I've watched Severance.
I saw the first 3 or 4 episodes of Silo this season. It was pretty good. And I saw the first episode of Severance. I haven't seen the second episode yet.
We just haven't. Those are 2 big sci-fi things out we haven't talked about. Anyway, maybe we can talk about that next time when we're not, since we don't have a book to read.
Yeah, could be.
No.
So just so people are aware, our casual listeners, not our hardcore patrons, we're all gonna be together in the same place next weekend, and we're going to record together in the same place. So it's going to be a little more freestyle, a little more jazz hands. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
A little more Riker, a little less Picard. If that, now Ben understands what I'm saying.
Yeah. With a warp 1 and a 2 and a yeah.
Oh, jeez. So yeah, next week. That's why we're planning on skipping a week, because we'll probably have other things to talk about. But this week, for our book club, we have all read Fondly Fahrenheit by Alfred Bester. Ben, take it away.
What a fan. What a weird one, y'all. Alfred Bester wrote this story, Fondly Fahrenheit, and the premise is a servile android robot turns on all of its commandments and it commits murder. But that's not the only thing that's happening. This robot and its human owner, they decide to run off, escape into different parts of the galaxy, into the cosmos, and try to find out why is the robot committing murder when the robot continues to profess that it cannot disobey its main programming, which says that you shall not kill. What is even going on? What is even going on, y'all?
When I was reading this, I was like, when was this written? Because it feels like every now and then it doesn't, but it feels pretty contemporary.
Yeah.
1953, it won. Oh, no, let's see. No, sorry. Alfred Bester won a Hugo Award in 1953 for his novel, The Demolished Man. I thought this was written in 1953. When was this written? Do we have that information somewhere?
I'll figure it out.
Oh, man. Because it felt like, I was like, if it was like, 1976, I'd be like, okay, or 1985. All right, I guess.
1954.
54. Okay.
54.
This story does some pretty incredible things for 1954.
Right.
Just the opening scene of a line of like future soldiers walking through rice paddies on an alien planet searching for a missing girl. I was like, what has happened? Like, I was drawn in immediately. Like the way that it was written and the way that they're like, oh yeah, they're not talking very much. And then there's just a long line of like 2 or 3 word sentences of these guys communicating with each other in like military, not really military jargon, but like these are men on a mission. All of that, like it felt so cinematic. And that was like the first couple of paragraphs. I was like, wow, what is this?
Yeah.
What is this story going to do?
Did you both read it, or did any of you listen to it?
I listened to it. The only audio version I could find.
That must have been an experience.
Well, the only audio version I could find is a guy who is reading it on YouTube, which a lot of the ones we listen to are kind of like that because they're in the public domain. So some people online make audiobook versions of things. This one was a bit rougher than the other ones, but it was the only version I could find.
How polite of you to say
it wasn't bad, but it was more like, if one of us was just to read the story out loud, it'd be like, okay, I get it, but it's not.
It wasn't like acted or anything. Someone
acted, yeah, but it was good. So that's how I consumed it.
Now
I read it.
I imagine, I imagine that it was even more confusing listening to it.
It was because I was like, okay, it's because it uses the first person every so often. And at first I'm like, okay, it's the guy who owns the robot. That's the I in this situation. And then later it's like it refers to him in the third person and says I. I'm like, oh no, we're hearing this from the perspective of the android actually. And then it would switch, and I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah, it consistently switches between first, second, and third person when discussing both the android and the android's owner.
Yeah, and then they're like, is there a third entity involved that's just not like identified yet, but is like observing the situation? And then they get into questions of identity and transference or
and eventually they explain it by saying
sort of.
That was the only problem I had with the story was that bit.
Yeah.
While reading it, I found it interesting. I was like, okay, something's going on here. I can't wait for that explanation. And they're like, this is why. And I was like, oh, this was written in the 50s. Essentially it's a huckster, right? It's some dude. He's got this fancy robot, but that's all he's got. And he uses this fancy robot, which looks like a normal person, except it's got letters stamped into its forehead to say, I'm a fancy robot. I forget what the letters are.
MA. Yeah, multi-aptitude.
Yeah,
I think is what it is.
That sounds correct. And so he uses it to work jobs and stuff, and then he takes the money that it works, and he does nothing. Except like
he's from a rich family, and his father like squandered their wealth just before he died, and so the main character is that's kind of important to his perspective on life and why he's kind of doing what he's doing, because this robot clearly is murderous, and the main character's like, well, but I need him to work for me to make money, as opposed to obviously, saying, oh crap, this thing's killing people, I should get rid of it, and I should work, I should figure out another way of making a living. But it's kind of a commentary on social status and people inheriting wealth versus earning it.
Yeah. So
and then the other thing where he's like in the second class cabin and third class cabin,
steerage,
like that whole kind of thing.
Well, like every time the robot kills somebody, he goes on the run, and that's when it's like, okay, I have even less money now, and even less money, and even less money, until what was the final? Oh, finally they're destitute, and he's on Earth, or Terran, I think, or Terra they call it. In like suddenly things get like very specific. Before it was like, oh, we're on this planet, we're on that planet, we are in England on Piccadilly Circus. Like he did get very specific to where he's at. Like, oh, this must have been written by an Earth person. So they're destitute, and he instructs his robot, like, go rob that guy, and he's like, still I can't break laws, obviously, and he's like, no, come on, do it, and he's like, I can't. So they go to he goes to rob a blind man, and the blind man's like, look, I am super good at math. and then he goes, go on.
Tell me more.
And so, so I guess the place before that, they were at a university, and some kids they Scooby-Dooed it and figured out the reason why the robot was killing. And then, of course, they killed them and then left with all of their paperwork, which turned out to be newspapers.
They say it's the problem of projection, that psychotics project their illness on others to externalize their problems. And so here it is it the robot killing, or is it the person, the man killing?
That's nonsense. I don't know.
Well, like that it's the idea here is that they're inseparable, really.
See,
throughout the course of it all.
I thought it was the other way around.
Well, until at the close of the story, the android is killed and the human continues the killing spree, projecting his psychosis onto a new android.
Yeah.
That's one way of of seeing this. Well, I definitely see that this is open to interpretation, 100%.
Yes, you did skip ahead just a little bit though, because
the entire story.
Yeah. Did you just want to get to the end?
I'm tired and cranky.
We're all tired and cranky. Have a tea. Have some tea. Kill somebody. You'll be fine.
Not too hot.
Murder is bad. Everyone, don't do that. So they go to the blind man. They say, we've got all this information. We can't figure it out. You're good at math. Figure it out for us. Blind man does. And then there's a reasonable explanation. This is where I thought the story was going to fall apart, where they're going to be like, oh, the positronic nonsense went backwards, and that's why it kills sometimes. But instead they were like, no.
Yeah, look here, you've got it set to evil.
Oh, yeah, you've got to switch this to neutral or good at least. No, it was like, oh, the heat, when the robot's in the heat, it gets murderous because of like an endocrine, or no, synesthesia, like it and they talks about like it starts singing and dancing too, and then it kills. And so like they tied it in biologically, because these fancy robots are like humans, just built and told to follow certain directions. So then the guy has his answer, like, oh, he kills because hot, let's go to cold and shoot the blind man. So And I think that's where the story turns to, okay, now the poor formerly rich man is now the murderous one. Like that's the transfer. That's when the transference happens. I thought this formerly rich guy who always has a last name that starts with a V because he's very uncreative. He was watching this, or he was experiencing this robot killing, and he was like absorbing that until he saw so much of the killing that he was like, you know what, this killing thing, not so bad. Perhaps I shall do some killing as well.
But the thing with the point of view and the saying I and the changing, it kind of makes it seem like that was present. And what's the first line? Do you have the text up? What's the first line of the book? It says something. It's what?
It is, he doesn't know which of us I am these days, but they know one truth. You must own nothing but yourself. You must make your own life, live your own life, and die your own death, or else you will die another's.
I mean, is that supposed to be like separate from like out of time, like almost a quote that would have been more from the end of the book? Or is that establishing the story? Because just from there makes it seem like there's already a question of identity between him and the robot and who's actually doing the killing.
Well, I mean, yeah, like right at the beginning, they're one and the same. Because
but that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like when you talk about, I mean, physically, I think the human doesn't commit a murder until towards the end of the story. I don't think it's like the whole time it was actually the human, but is the robot still like doing the human's will, like in a subconscious or some sort of way?
But then that would be taken out by learning about the heat and the synesthesia stuff later. Like that like proves what was happening, unless that part was false. I like the way it was written, and I like how it kind of kept you on your toes about who was doing what. But I did not like the explanation for it or understand it. I don't think there's a good understanding in the story to explain what that was all about. I don't think there's enough information here.
Well, I think, and because I listened to like something that was more of an analysis of the story, and they were talking about how this story is known. It's so well regarded because of how it's written, not just the story itself. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's part of it, is this author playing with kind of those things to enhance the story, which leads to these kind of questions of like, well, then what does that even mean, and what's really going on? Also, this author apparently, I don't know if you guys ran across this, wrote the Green Lantern saying. I don't know much about Green Lantern, but there's a thing he says.
In brightest
darkness, brightest light, darkest days. I have a lantern.
It's green.
You're on my rays.
I'm not a robot.
Yeah. You're the robot. Read. He wrote a lot of things.
So wait, so the author of this wrote that?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Why?
Huh.
Why? Because he probably was paid to.
Okay. Let's see.
That's awesome.
Green Lantern. In brightest day, in blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware my power, Green Lantern's light.
He started writing at the 4th issue of Green Lantern.
Oh yeah, because Green Lantern's one of those classic characters. That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, from the Golden Age. So
now there's all colors. Give me a color and I'll read their thing.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no. The like, what was it? The Color Wars? I read like I went through a lot of
the
Green
Color
Lantern.
War. You mean the Race Wars?
Yeah. No, there was literally in Green Lantern in the comic books, probably in the mid-thousands, like there was just like all the different color lanterns.
Yeah.
Had like they fought, and it was
they all have
an
their
incredible
own
color war.
Colors, and they all have their own powers and weaknesses and strengths, and it was a whole thing.
It was.
Yeah.
It was.
So you enjoyed
pretty
that.
great.
You enjoyed the Green Lanterns.
Yeah. The like run of like 40 or 50 comics in a row that I read, and and then I was like, this storyline's losing its steam.
Did you see that Nathan Fillion's going to be a Green Lantern in the new Superman movie? Did we ever talk about that trailer?
I'm so excited.
Oh man,
so
and he's like
that.
the jerk one,
Yeah,
with the dumb haircut, which is great. Anyways,
Nathan Fillion.
Fondly, he needs more work. I mean, I'm sure he's got plenty of work, but I want to see him everywhere. Fondly,
Well, have you seen The Rookie?
I haven't. I'm an idiot.
It's a pretty good show. It also stars, and forgive me, we'll get back to the sci-fi, but it stars the like he plays opposite in that show. He plays opposite the captain of the ship in Dark Matter, and so it's kind of funny to see two sci-fi captains like in a relationship at the beginning of the show.
Wow, that is kind of funny.
Yeah. They're cops. They're rookie cops.
Oh, is that why it's called The Rookie?
Yeah.
Wasn't he a writer in some show too?
Castle.
Was it called The Writer?
Oh, he wrote
Castle.
Castle, yeah.
What did he write Castle, or he played the writer Frank Castle?
He was a character in Castle who was a writer who I think was shadowing a cop.
Yeah.
To learn.
Why is he always
stuff.
cop adjacent? What's
I mean, there's so many cop shows.
I mean,
it's just.
The Rookie, he is a cop. He's just a rookie cop.
Right. So
If you want to get
even though
work
he's
in
older.
Hollywood, you just gotta be a cop.
Put on the badge.
Yeah, true.
Fondly Fahrenheit by Alfred Bester. I would give it a solid 4 out of 5 REITs. It almost got 5, but that bit at the end, and it didn't do it for me. What do you guys give it?
I'm giving it 95 degrees for sure.
Okay.
Fahrenheit.
Devin, what do you got? How are you going to rate this thing?
You're
thinking too much.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Like I got sucked into it more than I don't know why, more than I thought I would, just because from the premise we had discussed with a robot killing people, I'm like, okay, so is this like the start of the whole trope of robots rising up against their masters? And then it wasn't that. And I was like, okay, it's something different, so it's interesting. It was a bit weird, not necessarily in a good way, somewhat in a good way. I'll give it 3 out of 5 REITs.
That was the best line read for that. That's great.
No second take needed. That's perfect. I do not have to fix that in post.
Yeah.
All right.
Unlike the rest of this show,
oh.
this godforsaken, awful
it's
thing.
just going to be Devin saying that over and over on a loop for 2 hours. I'll put echoes on it. I'll do it backwards. It's going to be great. All right, guys. Hey, this episode is a normal length. That's good. So like we said before, not next week, but the week after, Burning Chrome on Burning Chrome from William Gibson. It's not available online, so go to a bookstore if those still exist. I don't think they do.
I mean, you can get it on Kindle if you want. You can get the full collection of Burning Chrome on Kindle.
Or
you can read it any way you can.
I kind of want to step away from Amazon. I kind of want to.
Yeah.
I mean, I can check my library's online database. Like,
yeah.
You might have a library, you can use their app to read it.
For sure.
Yeah.
Do that.
Check Kobo's ebook marketplace too. They're great.
William Gibson is popular enough that I bet if you have a used bookstore around where you live, you can find a copy of this. I would wager some credits on that. For sure.
And we already think this is going to be a worthwhile thing. Like this isn't an unknown quantity.
I mean, I've read Neuromancer and it was crazy.
I think I read Neuromancer.
Neuromancer.
I don't think I have.
Does this cool thing where they talk about the sky being the color of a TV with its like coaxial cable pulled out of it, which works on 2 levels. Because when the book was written, if that had happened, you would get snow, right? Like the thing that doesn't exist anymore. When I read that it exists on 2 levels, it was in the time of digital when you unplug something, you'd typically get a blue screen that would like wait for your inputs. And I thought that was pretty clever. He wasn't looking in the future or anything. It was just one of those things that, hey, this happened to work because of the old way and the new way. And now I'm sure it would be like, I don't know if it'd still work because people don't plug things in like that anymore. Anyways, Neuromancer.
Well, coaxial cable would be like, what do you mean? You mean HDMI?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, what streaming service are you plugging in? No, not that. Oh, geez. How would you even use a classic, a vintage Nintendo nowadays? Because you used to have to plug it in with this coaxial cable and go to a certain
as
channel.
a doorstop?
Yeah, as a doorstop.
You get an old TV, Stephen, or you plug in your Steam Deck to a monitor.
Look,
like the rest of us.
The answer to all your problems isn't plug it into a Steam Deck, Ben.
It is. It's how I get by.
You do get by. Yeah. Devin, do you have any final thoughts on this?
No.
Ben, do you have any last words?
So I just started a new band. We call ourselves 1023 Megabytes. We don't have a gig yet.
Good night, everybody.
This has been the Science Faction Podcast. Tweet to the host at SciFact Podcast. Email them at sciencefactionpodcast@gmail.com and visit sciencefactionpodcast.com for more episodes.